I believe that everything happens for the better.
Okay.
And so sometimes, well, actually, all the time, if you reframe negative experiences or mistakes as a positive or something that will lead to a more positive outcome later, um, that's just really the only way to live life, in my opinion.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Mashbitz. Dmitri, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. My very first question and most important question is, how are you doing? Like, really, actually, how are you doing?
Really well, really well. Can't complain.
Why really well? What's going on that's so good?
Just a bunch of things. The business is going well. I feel great. There's just kind of everything all around is it's quite good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because when I was looking up some of your stuff, one of the things that popped out to me was professional mistake maker. And I thought that was very interesting. So before we get into like what's currently going on in your life, what's that mean? What's professional mistake maker mean?
Just I think it's a relative, not really a new concept. I don't think I invented it, but if you don't make mistakes, you don't learn, and you don't, you're not really moving. What's the expression? Oh, not the expression. What's the WD-40? Right? You know what the 40 stands for?
Mm-mm.
It's the 40th version that he made. The one that actually worked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a powerful concept, right? Because if you're not willing to at least try, then nothing's ever going to get created, right? You have to at least, I'm a sports guy, and we're going to talk about some of the sports guys that you are now using the thing that you are a part of, but like you can't win the game if you're not even in the fucking arena. You know what I mean? If you're not even in the game,
Yeah.
suiting up. So like being able to fall down and pick yourself back up is one of the cornerstones of anything. And I imagine it's the same for being an investor like yourself.
Yeah, honestly, it's just from experience, having having made a lot of mistakes. It's like it's a skill to not get upset or sad or depressed about some of the mistakes that are quite obvious in retrospect. But just to kind of take it all with a grain of salt and understand that that's part of the process. It took me a while to learn that part. It's there's a lot of humbling experiences that do lead to more knowledge and making smarter decisions moving forward.
Is there a favorite failure of yours?
Let me think about that for a second. Probably, yeah. It was not taking the position of head of Southern California for Uber when they were just starting.
Oh, wow.
But let me rephrase that. I believe that everything happens for the better.
Okay.
And so sometimes, well, actually, all the time, if you reframe negative experiences or mistakes as a positive or something that will lead to a more positive outcome later, that's just really the only way to live life, in my opinion. Otherwise, you're kind of putting yourself. If you make a mistake and then you frame it to yourself as not a mistake, then you're right away on the trajectory of it not being a mistake and coming up with a better outcome. But if you keep kind of harping on the fact that this was a mistake, then you go back on the other trajectory, which leads to that actually being a mistake.
Yeah, you can sort of take two paths, like the victim or the creator, right?
Exactly.
If I don't see it that way, then I'm a victim. It's why me, why does this always happen to me? Instead, I can take the creator path. Like, okay, this did happen. This is the truth. I did make this mistake, or this business venture did fail, or I did lose this game, or whatever the case may be. I can learn from it, and I can be the creator of my own destiny by taking responsibility moving forward. And those two usually produce two very different outcomes. Not that you can control the outcome per se, but you definitely have influence over which direction it goes. And taking that creator approach, I think, breeds a very different outcome for sure, and breeds less resentment, less bitterness, towards that decision you made. And I think that's a good path to be on.
Agreed. Perfect. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. When did you make the decision that you wanted to be an entrepreneur or be an investor?
2010. So I started my career in investment banking and worked there for a couple of years. Then I went to work for a company called Overture in LA, which was in the process of getting acquired by Yahoo, back when it was cool. And spent 7, 8 years working there. And then got bitten by the startup bug, and left and started my first startup, then started the second startup, and then got involved with investing. So yeah, it's been almost a decade and a half at this point.
What attracted you to the startup industry?
I think the fun. The fun of it is just being a cogwheel in a big machine is cool, but A, you don't control that much. B, the outcome is not as interesting. And I guess I realized later I tend to be very risk tolerant compared to most other people. So for me, it's kind of a natural state to take more risks.
To go all in, you say, huh? That's easier for you?
Yeah. More fun, at least, right?
More fun, yeah. Yeah. It makes me think about going on a roller coaster, and that's something I absolutely do not like to do at all.
Really? Oh, wow.
No. My fiance wants to go to all these theme parks and everything, and I was very fortunate when I was younger that my parents took me to all of them, and so maybe I just got like enough of it. So now, as an adult, I don't really want to go. Like we even went skiing a couple weeks ago, and like that was like, that doesn't, okay. I'll sit and drink some coffee. You go skiing. Maybe that's not risk per se, but I don't know. Just made me think of that.
Is it fear, or is it just kind of boredom?
I think it is like, I just don't see the point. Like I could be spending my time doing something else that's more productive. Like, I don't know, sitting in the lodge, drinking coffee, or not waiting in line for 100 minutes to ride a 2-minute, I don't know. Right. But I guess some people see the thrill and the adrenaline's going and like all that. I get that. That's awesome. But for me, I can get my adrenaline going if I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And then after that, I'll just, whatever. So it's interesting. But yeah, I don't know why your risk tolerance for investing made me think of going on a roller coaster, but that's where we went. So
great analogy.
Yes. And then when did this idea of being interested in the combination of technology and human thriving come together for you?
Well, so I had been working in the online space for a long time, from the corporate world to startups, and kind of realized that in the tech world, online tech, gaming, and then crypto to some extent, you just have the smartest people who are spending just an insane amount of time and focus and brain power to create something. And a lot of times that something is simply making more money, right? Just monetization. At least that's what we were doing at Yahoo. Yes, we create content and different products, but vast, and what I was focused on is monetizing that traffic. I feel even more extremely about this with regards to gaming. I have a lot of friends in the gaming industry, and it doesn't really resonate with me that somebody would put so much effort into making a game that I personally think is just a waste of time. That's not, yes, it's fun, but it doesn't really make anyone's life better. And so I became really interested in, well, what are the problems that really need to get solved? And for me, which is what resonated, was this the idea of inner, physical well-being, but also inner well-being, so emotional, mental health, and how do we make people's lives better holistically and deeply? So not just, remember, did you ever watch Silicon Valley, the TV
The TV show? Yeah.
Yeah. Remember how they talk about, we make the world a better place through like XYZ, like through something very relevant. So everybody tries to make the world a better place, but I think there are some ways of making the world a better place that are truly meaningful. And with our product that I'm sure we'll talk about, seeing what the difference it can make in people's lives who have very severe disorders that can't walk or can't really live a normal life, and then they put this thing on and they start walking, start talking, and just the quality of their life improves so drastically. It's a really empowering experience for us.
Yeah. So that's where you think technology plays a role. I'm sort of hesitant on the idea of technology in regards to mental and emotional health for very much personal reasons. My sister in 2018 died by suicide. And so then that sort of took me on a journey of trying to figure out everything I possibly could about emotional health, mental health, and how we can, as a society and a culture, become more proactive with it. And then you learn about the medication industry and what that's doing. And I know there's positives to it. My sister took medication for a long time, and I think it really saved her life. But extended her life, excuse me. She had very severe mental health conditions. There's lower end mental health, and I think we have to frame what actually mental health is. Like, mental health is how you think, feel, and act. Me and you have that right now, where we're mentally trying to flex our muscles to have this conversation in real time. That's mental health. Now, there's different things for schizophrenia and all of that stuff. Yes, that technology and medication can be there for that. But I think as a society, we have to get this foundational layer first of trying to be able to emotionally regulate ourselves in day-to-day, moment-to-moment, using the tools we have at our disposal, our breath, our self-talk, journaling, communication, all of that stuff. And we really haven't got there yet because we always want this sort of like quick fix thing that could just happen in the moment. And I'm talking about just every day. Again, more severe stuff deserves much more severe treatment. And so when I think about technology, it's awesome because very smart people are creating it. Like, human beings are making this stuff, and that's insane to think about. But at the same time, we haven't made a fundamental belief that we can do some of these things ourselves to take responsibility for our mental health. And then if things aren't getting better, if things aren't controlled by just the stuff I can do every day, like Tim Ferriss talks about this all the time, all these modalities that he's used because he's tried everything. And now technology or psychedelics might be a place for that. But we have to exhaust all these other resources before we start adding all this other stuff. And I'm just getting on my soapbox here. But that's what I think about that.
Okay, well, that's a really, really good point. So yeah, I think if I were to paraphrase, you're saying that like we have our own internal resources that we should kind of use first before, or at least maybe even exhaust first before utilizing any external tools, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think if we can first eat, move, sleep, and think, if we haven't exhausted all of those things, like if we're not sleeping well, if we're not eating well, if we're not moving well, if we're not thinking well, and we don't have a list of tools that we can go to every day for all of those things, and we've done those over an extended period of time, and we still feel like shit, like we still feel like we're in the depths of hell, or we still feel depressed, or we can't get out of bed, or all of these things are happening even though we've hit all of these foundational pillars, then, okay, now how can I get some extra support? How can I talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or go to this, or try this medication or this patch or this deal or this deal? And then maybe it all comes together. Or maybe I need a psychedelic treatment to rewire my brain, or whatever the case may be is. But if we're just going to those things as a first resort and expecting it to all be better immediately, and then we have no base layer of how to make ourselves feel better when those tools run out, or when that medication runs out, or whatever the case may be, then I think that's where we get into trouble. And we are in trouble. We see it with our young people right now. They're not sure how to deal with the phone being in their face all the time. And it's not their fault. This is how they grew up. So we have to adapt to that rather than saying, get off your phone, right? There's got to be multiple things that we can do here rather than just demonizing the child. We have to structure society in a better way, or give them more tools, or think about this in a different way. So it's just something I think about, quite often, especially on this podcast.
I definitely understand what you're saying. And I think for most people, in kind of general cases, absolutely, I agree with you. And the reason I believe in technology as a tool to help put ourselves into some kind of a balance is because, if we evolved in a very different world than we live in now, right? We evolved with, walking, for thousands of years, right? Like being outside, moving our body to some just to walk, eating food that probably had less chemicals, right? Air that had way less chemicals, drinking clean water, with the exception of, pathogens and Black Plague and things like that. But I think the act of living our life now, especially if you live in the city, we are not in a normal quote unquote environment. We're bombarded with electromagnetic frequencies. We're bombarded with stress. We are, sleeping is hard, with all the screens, with all of this, right? We're sitting inside. We're not really outside as much as we should. We're sitting instead of walking and moving our body. And so I feel like we're constantly fighting against this external environment that's trying to make us sick, And so, yes, we do have all these resources, but it's hard. And for some people, it's harder than for others.
Mm-hmm.
And so having tools is helpful. I'm not saying, and what we say with our product, it's not a silver bullet. Please don't just use the product and then, eat crappy food and don't exercise, right? Like everything has to be holistic. So absolutely, you should still do all those other things, but just for this little extra kicker, there are solutions out there that are really, really helpful. And they, I personally believe, especially in the contrast with medicine or pharmaceuticals or chemical medicine, what excites me is tools that work with your body to help your body balance itself and put it and heal itself, as opposed to doing some kind of an external stimulus that's doing all the work for you. And so this is what excites me about our product, for example, is we're doing is we're reminding your body what the balanced state is, so that it can easier reach that state, and then your body is more than capable of healing itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't want to make it sound like I was, demonizing all technology products, because there's some that I definitely believe in, and I've read a ton about yours, and I think it's very cool what it's happening and what it's doing for people, as you're going to tell us. The quote that always pops up to me is, I forget who it's by, but it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So I think that's really powerful, because if you're just doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, it doesn't mean that you're healthy, because the majority of our society is unhealthy. And so if we can use the tools at our disposal, like your product, like all of these internal resources, like community and all of these things, then we're sort of looked at as like a weird person, because we're trying to take care of ourselves, which is not normal in our society. And so I think it's really cool that technology is moving in the direction of trying to take care of each other in ways that can enhance us as human beings. So with that said, please, let's get to the main event. Tell us about your product.
Sure, happy to. But I'm super happy to talk about everything. I talk about the product all the time, so I'm very happy to to have a broader conversation. So our product is it's called Taopatch, and it's this little thing that looks like a plastic coin. Really doesn't look like much, but it's a nano device. So inside of this, there's a nano material that has a couple of very unique qualities. So first of all, it can capture your heat or your infrared energy, and it sort of acts like a prism in a way that it splits the wavelength of infrared energy that it's capturing and kind of turns it into a broader spectrum of light, all the way from infrared to ultraviolet. So it acts kind of like a prism in the sense that it kind of splits this light and makes it broader, and it reflects it back into your body like a mirror. So basically, we place it on specific, and we combine it with acupuncture in a sense that we place it on specific acupoints. And depending on which point you place it on, it has a different effect. Also, and actually how it originally started, it was designed to treat injuries. So if you place it on any point where you have pain or an injury, it makes the pain go away and it makes the injury recover faster. And we have a crazy amount of those stories. And what's really cool is it's not, there's no chemicals that are being released. It's literally just very faint light that is emitted into your nervous system, and it the wavelength of the photons that are being emitted is very similar to the wavelength of the photons that our nervous system uses. So our nerves use not only electrons or electricity to communicate with each other, but also light. And so this light is kind of a similar color of light, and it essentially reminds and helps our nervous system put itself back into balance. And why is this important is kind of what we were talking about before. Our nervous system, for most people, is completely messed up. For some more than others, right? So we have up until recently, most of our customers have had a neurological disorder like multiple sclerosis, MS, or Parkinson's, or fibromyalgia, or chronic pain of some kind. And for them, eating, exercising, doing all those things doesn't work, right, at all. And so they're used to taking hardcore medication, and just their life is really, really difficult. And if you go on our website, taopatch.co, you'll see the videos, before and after videos we have of our customers, and most of them are taken on the same day. And literally within minutes of sticking two of these patches, one on your sternum, one on your neck, people start walking noticeably better, like straight, I would say, whereas before they couldn't put one foot in front of the other. And then the second group of people that we have been grateful to help is athletes. So we have a lot of professional athletes who are using it, and for them, an extra second, right, of running 1 second faster makes a difference between winning or losing. And so they are looking for every opportunity they can, and this is just a really, really wonderful solution.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I like about it is, one, you mentioned acupuncture, which is like an ancient healing modality that's been around for so long, that's been proven to work, right? And so the combination of something that's ancient, which is basically means that it's been proven the test of time, with something that's new, and you combine those two things together, I think is quite cool. That's really what I was trying to get at in my whole rant about 5 minutes ago, is that if we can use things that we've always done and do them really, really well, be brilliant at the basics, like all athletes say, and then add these different things on that have been created recently to help human flourishing, and then have that combination, I think is really quite cool. And the cool thing about getting athletes to endorse your product, especially like the ones that you have, like the best fucking tennis player of all time, maybe, top 3. I don't know. We'll see. Top 1.
We're not top one.
Is that they're doing all of these things. Like, I like to tell people that you should treat yourself like an elite athlete, which means you're eating well, you're moving well, you're sleeping well, you're thinking well. They're doing all of these things to try and gain that little edge when he's played a 6-hour tennis match and he still needs to move laterally around the court and hit the serve 125 miles an hour. And if he's going to say that this product helps me perform better, then like that's like golden stamp, sign it, cool. Because athletes try to get every advantage they can. Some take steroids, which are very effective, but not legal. So if you can find something that's, legally and very healthily going to give you an advantage while not like downstream effects going to ruin your life when you stop taking it, that's awesome. That's like a money guarantee.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Well, and the thing about this, the holistic approach, what really excites me about our product and lots of other products like it is, we're not an external. Yes, it's an external thing that it's not in your body, it's not in you. But what it's doing is it's literally acts like a mirror. So it's taking your own energy, reflecting it back to you. And in the process, it kind of retunes your nervous system in a way that then helps your body function the way it's supposed to normally. And this, I think, is the common thing between all holistic modalities, is that compared with, so allopathic medicine, the Western medicine, treats each body part, each organ, each system as kind of a separate thing. And that's why our doctors are specialists in one area. That's why a lot of our medicines have the word anti in front of them, like anti-inflammatory and antifungal, antibacterial. It's kind of like we're fighting with our body, or we're fighting with the external environment in some way. And by contrast, holistic medicine like Chinese medicine or acupuncture, or really any other ancient modality, what they're doing is they're treating the entire body, the entire emotional body, mental body, as one thing. Right? So if you go to a Chinese doctor, they will ask you 100 questions about everything that's related or not related to the problem you're having, in order to create the holistic picture of you. And then the treatment, all it's really doing is helping you get back into balance, because when you're in balance, your body is very, very capable of rebalancing and rehealing whatever problem it has.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, we've always treated mind and body separate, when really, they're interconnected, bi-directional. If I'm about to go to the gym after this, I mostly go to the gym. I like working out, but it helps my mental state, right? So it's mostly for my mindset and my mental clarity. Obviously, there's tons of physical benefits, but it's bi-directional. The thing I do for my brain is going to help my body. The thing I do for my body is going to help my brain. And so that's sort of where the holistic wellness, I think, is really, crushing it, trying to interconnect all of these things so we can be in flow, we can be in harmony with our body and with nature, which I think is really important too, for our overall wellness, is having that connection with nature, knowing that there's beauty there, and we share this sort of connection, so we can be in harmony. And so I think the combination of Eastern and Western modalities together can be a really powerful tool.
Yeah, I mean, kind of what you were saying earlier, I'm very grateful for Western medicine in cases where it's needed, right?
Yeah.
If you need a surgery, great. But it's important to be cautious and realize that sometimes we don't need surgery. And this is actually how we got first involved with Novak Djokovic, the number one tennis player. He had a really bad knee injury, and putting Taopatch on his knee helped him recover where nothing else would help. So yeah, it's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, sometimes though for the regular individual who trusts doctors, because we do, it's very hard to make that distinction on whether I should or shouldn't get cut open. Is this my best option? Should I get a second opinion? Do I have time to get a second opinion? I'm in a ton of pain. Like, I don't know if I can, like, all of these things happen. Um, and so, yeah, I don't know. It is very important for people to do their own research so they are getting the best possible thing for whatever they might be dealing with. And so that's important. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important not to do your best to not get to the point where you need that kind of intervention, right?
Right. Right. How is the patch helping people with such severe Parkinson's or MS? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah. So basically, what's happening is when the light from the patch enters into your nervous system, it affects. It's kind of like a layer of the onion. It affects different things. There's a detox effect. There's all sorts of energy, or brain waves speed up, and so on. But the first system that it affects is your proprioception, which is kind of the movement orientation of your body, right? So for example, if you extend your arm like this and then close your eyes and then move your arm here, the reason you know where your arm is because of your proprioceptive system, right? So your balance and movement is the first thing that's affected. And in our lab, we have an equipment called a piece of equipment called stabilometer, which is another name for it is force plates. Basically, if you stand on this plate, it measures your balance and how your balance is shifting over time. And when we put the patches on everyone, in every single case, we can see a statistically significant improvement in your balance. So instead of this, you're much more like this. So this lets you use much less energy to kind of keep these micro adjustments that your body needs to make, and so you become physically much more balanced. Your range of motion increases as well. And so this is happening with everybody who puts them on. But for people whose nervous system is destabilized, especially their proprioception is destabilized, also there's connection between the neurons, such as MS, such as Parkinson's, and other neurological disorders. For them, it's a really drastic difference. So they go from being, at a really, really low level, they make a huge jump that is really, really noticeable. So they start walking straight. Their range of motion improves. We had, and this isn't exactly proprioception, but we had cases where somebody a Parkinson's patient couldn't talk, and then after 6 months of just wearing the patch, they started talking. So it's a really, really, really profound thing, and we kind of discovered it completely by accident. Again, like I said, it was initially designed to treat muscle contractures and injuries and pain. And one of the doctors that was working with this put it on his patient who had MS, and the person like literally stood up from the wheelchair within minutes and started walking. It was really crazy.
Yeah. See, when I hear those stories, then I think, wow, technology is amazing, right? Because it's like the most type of severe thing that no other thing is going to help, but we've created this idea that could help people live a better life where they can move around and they can walk and they can see their families and they can talk and they can communicate and they can remember and all of these things. I mean, that's where technology is like incredible. Just like you mentioned, a surgeon like being able to make this like perfect incision in someone's ACL and repairing it completely so they can go back to doing whatever they were doing. Like that type of stuff is super important and obviously part of our flourishing society. But like I mentioned earlier, getting that base layer down I think is super important as well, just for general population and general things of that nature. But yeah, that's really cool to hear those stories and how people are just getting their life back. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible.
And it's, to your point, what excites me about this industry and wellness, it's that, right? We could be spending our time building a video game or something like this, and it's night and day,
Yeah, one, helps people unlock the best version of themselves in greatest service of the world, and the other gives you like a little bit of satisfaction for like an hour or two playing a video game.
Yeah.
Not to say there's not room for both, but let's much lean towards the side of creating products that make the world a better place, or that encourage people to physically, emotionally, spiritually, take care of themselves on a day-to-day basis. So
Completely.
Cheers to that, man. Cheers to the work you guys are doing, and then the people that you're helping on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you.
Have a lot of people, doctors, adopted your patch, or how's that been getting it out into the world?
Yeah, I mean, we have we've been doing this now for 7, 8 years.
Oh yeah.
For the first few, and by the way, the product comes from Italy, and it was invented by a very, very brilliant engineer named Fabio Fontana years ago. And for the first few years, the only way for you to use it would be to work with one of the doctors, one of the practitioners that's been working with it, and they've all been in Italy and some parts of Europe. And then when COVID happened, we realized, well, you couldn't see a doctor, right? First of all. And we realized that basically we can kind of streamline the whole process, productize the directions, make it easier to use, and kind of simplify things, and ship it directly to your door. And so we've been, since COVID, shipping it globally. And for the first couple of years, a lot of our patients had, MS, Parkinson's, and those kind of disorders. And then, well, actually, this summer, Novak Djokovic was caught wearing it at Roland Garros.
Caught wearing it like he was doing something wrong. That's funny.
But it was like we were, watching the game, and he takes his shirt off, and there's our patch on his neck.
Oh, you didn't know? He just like bought one and this started wearing it?
No. It was, we knew. So we've been working with him with his coach for a couple of years.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
But still, it's like a nice.
It's awesome to see.
Well, and then the best part was at the press conference, somebody asked him, "What is this thing you're wearing?" And he said, "Well, yeah." So he said, first of all, I always wanted to be Iron Man, and so this is me being Iron Man. But seriously, and I'm quoting now. But seriously, I have this team that brings me these nanotechnology devices, and without them, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And they're the biggest secret of my career.
Wow.
So that was a really, really good day. And so since then, we've had a lot of we always had a lot of professional athletes, but now we have a lot of amateur athletes, especially older athletes who are like Novak, frankly. Well, and then a really cool thing happened last weekend at Golden Globes. Robert Downey Jr., who won the Best Actor, was going like this with his Golden Globe. And again, the camera caught that he's wearing our patch on his wrist. And this is a point for mental, emotional well-being, for better sleep, for kind of that inner wellness that we're talking about. So now we're getting into the non-athletes, regular people market as well, which is great.
That's incredible. Congratulations on that for sure.
Thank you.
So what's next? What's next for you? Business-wise, anything else coming up for you? Anything exciting?
Yeah, lots of things. We're about to launch a new product, which I don't want to talk about yet, but I would love to come back and talk on your show once it's live.
Sure.
That's combining some other. It's all in the field of I call it frequency medicine. And by the way, so there's a quote from Albert Einstein who said that the medicine of the future will be the medicine of frequencies. So very exciting to be kind of in
What does that mean? What does that entail? Frequency medicine.
So I'll tell you what it means for me. I'm not
Okay.
sure what Albert meant, but
Yeah. Me neither.
but from the standpoint of both like esoteric uh, disciplines as well as just basic quantum physics, we are particles and waves, right? So we're waves until we're observed, and then it becomes a particle and becomes a solid thing. And so essentially everything is energy, everything is vibrating. And if you think about how to affect this like vibrating energy thing, yes, we can take pharmaceuticals, we can take chemicals, we can do different sorts of things. But if we are indeed at the most primary level energy, which is waves, right? Then the best way, the most primal way of affecting this is also through waves. So light, sound, vibration, electromagnetic, all of those are waves that we can use to affect our cells, which are also ultimately waves.
Okay. So that's what you mean. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm
And it's
locked.
just,
Go
for me,
ahead.
it's super exciting because it's, it seems like the most direct way. As counterintuitive as it seems, putting this little thing that emits very faint light into your body, it's one of our biggest problems with customers is it's hard to believe that something like this will have an effect like that. People think it's a placebo, which we have 17 published studies, and some of them are placebo controlled, so we know it's not placebo.
Mm.
But it's still that our brain has a hard time. First of all, our brain has a hard time believing that we are energy and waves, right? Because we're so solid.
Right.
But if you think about it a little bit deeper, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it does. After you put it like that, to think about frequency, medicine, and energy, and the transfer of energy, and living in harmony, and how all that meshes together. Yeah, that's really cool. So, thank you for your time today, Dmitri. I appreciate everything you're putting out to the world, and yeah, cheers to creating a little more harmony here in the wellness space.
Thanks, man. Thanks again for having me on the show.
Absolutely, anytime. If you enjoyed that episode, please click here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But above all else, most importantly, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.